Hello, welcome back. We're back in Port Ariana. I guess hang up my man Gino. This music's a little, I don't know. Let's get this treasure. First things first. But anyway, this music's from Bubba Hotep, just like the main theme of the game and Shroud's theme. So I thought, let's grab some more tracks from that. But this one, I don't know if I'd use it again. I mean, it's fine. It's pleasant. But stylistically, it's pretty far out there. But, whatever. Now this guy was, the reason we named him Gino was that my brother and I had just gone on a trip to Italy with our family, and we rented a house there. And the dude's name was Gino, and he was a good guy, and he went down at this, he would hang out at this camp by Lake Trasimeno. And there was randomly a bunch of Dutch people there, although he was Italian himself, and spent some time with him down there. And he was a good guy, so we thought, bring him, so give him some immortality by putting him in Master of the Wind. Now, it's not said very often, but his last name is Toro, which is a minor alteration of the name of the town which we stayed in Italy, which was Tororo. It's like Touro or something. It's kind of, a little harder to say than just Toro, Toro, which is his name. Now we have Sodom Bones getting spoiled by free weapons. Now I wanted to clear up another little bit of channel business I didn't get to last time. The last Let's Play I did wasn't actually Clean Slate. It was a Star Stealing Prince, which, as I'm sure most of you know, is it's not a game that I made. It's by a long-time friend of mine. And I was enjoying it, seemed to be coming out pretty well. Digging into the themes of that game, because that game's got some pretty heavy thematic material. So that was interesting. And unfortunately, I had to stop. And I still get, I think I think that one was more popular than the Clean Slate one, even though it was only like 7 or 8 entries. That game in general just kind of has a pretty big following out on the internet. So I get asked a lot, why I stopped it. And the reason for that was I had just taken a bunch of footage. It was like 45 minutes. It was going to be a big one. But Camtasia went screwy, and I lost it. And unfortunately, I had already saved in the game after all that stuff. So the only way to get it again would have been to start over. And that was, I don't know, that wasn't in the cards really. So unfortunately I had to stop it. But there are other ones out there. And, of course you could always just play the game yourself because it's good. Oh, here we go. I like this bit here. Yeah, this sounds like shit. I like that bit because it sort of screws with the expectations. I think when people see that for the first time, they're thinking that Ando's going to be like, yelling in pain because he got hit with the holy water, but no such luck. And so I guess neither of them really knew much about making a holy spring. They were just taking stones that may or may not have been enchanted and tossing them into a little pond and wondering if that was gonna make it a holy spring. It's more, that idea is used a couple more times in Clean Slate. There's a side quest near the end where you can go to a big holy spring up in the Boreal Wilderness, and that you can talk. They talk a lot more about that there. So this should be familiar to a lot of players. This is the first real major dungeon. We had Fort Drake as a little introduction, but this is the where it starts to really get into the the big time. And this whole setup of having an abandoned Gallian church in, the Elven territory, this was all Mark's idea. And I remember getting really excited when he laid out the concept over the phone. I just thought it was cool just to bring in some of the clean slate stuff. It was one of the first indications I had that, this was really going to tie into the previous stuff, even though, of course, that would be lost on some people since, the game. But it starts out very slow, too. We have this, nobody's around, and you're just trying to figure out how to get in. Very atmospheric. So, now all that Gallia stuff is, of course, in the Clean Slate Let's Play, and I believe I said already, I think in the last one of these that I did, that if you haven't watched that, I recommend you do, just because, this game will hopefully get a little more interesting once you've seen it. But you don't have to. And then we have a kind of convoluted barrier thing here. Andal's got his own barrier on the door of the church that they don't actually ever get through until the very end. But this barrier was put up by some ghosts here. And it doesn't really... the more you think about it, the less sense it makes, but I think that's alright. In fact, a lot of times, what I see in games is people feeling like they need to, explain their lore. And, obviously, like, everybody's got to do that to some extent. You want to get people, to understand what the world is like. But sometimes I think there's a temptation to take things too far. You want to explain, like, the big stuff, but little stuff like this, you don't have to bend over backwards to figure out, Cause I've played some games where, like, there'll be some minor puzzle that you only see once, and then characters spend, like, 10 minutes explaining, like, how it could work, trying to justify it, basically trying to protect the developer from, harsh questioning later, which I don't think happens much, at least not with, like, little puzzles, unless you got somebody really nitpicky on your hands. And in their defense, I certainly have met those people. A lot of them come from TV tropes. Sorry, guys. No, TV tropes is a great place. People there are always really enthusiastic and nice. They are picky. Now we're fighting the ghost, and you have to beat these 5 lancers to break the barrier. I don't know if the ones in charge of this realize that, like, all 5 of these lancers are, boorish idiots. Just, get themselves beaten up, and then that's it for the barrier. Now talk a little bit about ghosts in the Solus games. It's not treated as, like, a big mystery necessarily. There's no question that they exist. So, that neither Shroud nor Stoic is acting particularly spooked by any of this. But I guess, if you hang out with a sentient skeleton all the time, just, some ghostly humans is probably not gonna get a big reaction out of you. So I remember this used to be a lot harder. In the early stages of this game, I think Mark had just played, like, one of the Dragon Quest games or something. One of the newer ones. There was one where Toriyama did the designs, and obviously he's got, like, super distinctive style, so everybody looked like, Chrono or Trunks or whatever. And but he was in a very kind of grindy place. He just liked the idea of having people grind. But that's fallen out of fashion over the years. And so there were a couple times, I think at least two, where he, the entire difficulty curve of this game was changed. And a lot of the players who have been with us from the beginning weren't particularly happy about that. I think it was mostly because they felt proud that they had beaten like the original harder version. And look, if you did that, then there's no reason for you should still be proud, because it was tough. But I think it probably was a little too hard. I mean, I remember on one of the old forums, somebody made a topic that was basically like bitching about the first battle, like with the two ghosts and the zombie in Fort Drake, and how he had like died at them like 4 or 5 times. And that may be an extreme example, because most people usually don't have trouble like that early. So most of the thread was just people being like, "Man, you suck at this game," or whatever, which might not have been what the guy expected to hear. But the fact that could happen, I think, was a little bit of a red flag. Also interesting that some of the ghosts know that they're dead and some of the others don't. Some of them are just still doing their routines. I think that's kind of neat. I'm actually doing this thing with ghosts now in the book I'm working on. I mentioned it last time. Not like this, of course, nothing. But just like, have you ever seen any of those movies where like they're looking for ghosts? Not like Ghostbusters or anything. Like where some of the things that real paranormal investigators do, which is they go into a house that may be haunted, and they have their little K2 meters, which are measure EMF, which is electromagnetic fields, which supposedly is tied in with ghosts, but also there's a noted correlation between EMF and feelings of paranoia, like somebody's watching you. So if somebody's always like sitting in a room full of electronics, and they think there's ghosts in there, it may be because of that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting way off topic. But point is, I'm writing a book about ghosts, and I really try to make it really subtle. It's not like the ghost is like throwing things at people or stuff you see in movies. And I really haven't seen like a movie that did that well. There's this movie, White Noise, maybe like 10 years old. It's got Michael Keaton in it. And I love this. Wait. Here's a report. Lysander's dead, and the world's a whole lot better for it. Such a burn. Anyway, so this movie, White Noise, it had, the trailer was so good, because what the trailer did, instead of just a straight up, summary of the movie, they started out by explaining what EVP was. And it stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon, which is when people record the sound in a room, and then when they play the recording back, they hear voices that they didn't hear at the time, and they're at it's at like a decibel level that's too low for the human vocal range. It's not decibels. It's like megahertz or something. I don't know, I have to look that up. I'll get back to you. Some of the science details I'm a little iffy on. That was never my best subject. But so what they did in the trailer for this movie was that they used like real clips that people have gotten, and it's just so well done. Like, but the movie was terrible. Like, there's maybe like 20 minutes of like, a really interesting like ghost investigation, then just a bunch of other usual bullshit with the jump scares and the endings that make no sense, and just basically all the worst parts of the horror genre. But the trailer was so good, I still watch it sometimes, despite knowing the movie was crap. Yeah, so I'm sorry if I'm rambling here, but there's not a whole lot to talk about while I'm going around here just beating the shit out of ghosts. And there's still like, I don't know, this part still feels a little like immature to me. I mean, maybe I'm being too hard on myself, but it's I don't know. Something about it. It just doesn't seem to be, I don't know, on the level of the rest of the game in terms of the dialogue. And I'm not talking about the gameplay or whatever. I mean, this is a popular dungeon with players. I mean, more so the second part, but it's more just the way that, it just seems like comes off a little too much like, I'm a young guy having fun with being able to write whatever dialogue I want, so I'm going to be goofy. And hey, that's, a lot of people do that while they're learning. But if I knew this game was going to be, something I worked on for years and years, and that a lot of people played, I might have taken some of this early stuff more seriously. I'm going to buy this stuff. If anybody ever complains about the encounter rate, you should go and buy some of this shit from the ferry, because it'll slow down the encounters when you want to just get somewhere fast and not worry about, getting hit by monsters every couple seconds. But, I changed a lot of dialogue while, when we would sort of repackage this old stuff, but I didn't want to go too crazy, because I think that's actually something that comes up a lot with RPG Maker. It's sort of because these projects take so long, and you get to a point where you've just made like a recent scene or a recent dungeon that you really like, but then you're looking back on the older stuff and you're thinking like, oh, I'm so much better now, like if I were to do this again it would be better. But the problem is, like, you're going to keep improving. So if you start that, it could be kind of a vicious cycle. Like, I remember there was a series of like non-interactive RPG Maker stuff, basically like TV episodes, and that's something that people do every so often. And that's To the Moon is kind of like that. I mean, there is interactivity, but it's mostly cutscenes. And to pull that off, you gotta have, like, your visuals have to be, like, great. And the character movement stuff, it's all gotta be really good. And this series was, but, like 8 or 9 episodes had come out, and I would, always looked forward to checking them out. But what happened was the guy went back and started them over and did, like, the first episode again. And while it was, like, very impressive, because, he had gotten so much better, I don't know, you lose momentum when you do that. I mean, I don't think he ever made any more. So I didn't want to keep trying to go back to the old stuff and keep, tuning it up, the kind of stuff that George Lucas does. And I just thought, that would be the end of the game. We never finish. So there was, we did edit this stuff to an extent, but, like, we never did the whole, like, we never decided to do it all over. I mean, the closest we got was having Newport Ariana maps, which in itself was a lot of work, but I think that was probably worth it. So we've gotten to the 3 Lancers, and this is kind of a fun thing. They're actually kind of progressive for galleons. They're not overly, critical of Stoic being a skeleton, and don't seem to care all much as a vampire either. And look at these battlers, man. These are good. Sometimes I forget that Anchor went back and did, finish these old ones. There were placeholders here for a long time. And, at the time we used to get, like, frustrated. Oops, oh dear. I better get my shit together here. Thank goodness for desperation. It's a state that pops up when you're the only party member left standing. Increases your speed. So he was able to get Shroud back up before they beat the crap out of him. So once we knock out one of them, this should be a lot easier. We won't get it. Yeah, there we go. We won't get hit as much every turn. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the battlers. So at the time it would get frustrating because we would be thinking like, oh, we have so many placeholders, when's that guy going to do this? But given the size of this game and how many battlers and characters are in it, I mean, he did a lot. Especially, and he was, mostly going in order of the arcs. So I think Arc 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken, Arc 1 and 2 have totally original art for the battles. I don't think it's till Arc 3 where you start seeing a few placeholders. And even then, it's not too many. Because he did a lot of the stuff at the end, too, which obviously we're thankful for. So, yeah, it would have been nice to have a complete, portfolio of Valors here, but, for an indie project, and we were, not paying the guy. Sometimes we take him out to get buffalo wings, and that was that was the extent of his reward. So with that in mind, he did quite a lot. This guy's tanky. There we go. And there's actually some extra content. I don't know if it's in this version, but there was a cutscene I did was a flashback to the Queen Ariana's time, and there's a lot of these characters show up. Like these Lancers show up as when they were alive, and they have their fight with Queen Ariana, and you see some of the Elven Kingdom stuff, and that was fun to do. There was a time when I thought about trying to do like a movie, basically. You know how I was talking about the non-interactive RPG makers. Oh wait, I gotta find the guy. Is he still here? Come on, let me have it. Where is he? Smirnoff Ice, drink it. All these ghosts say the same thing except for one. It's a shame we never cut an advertising deal with Smirnoff Ice. Could have had Shroud Stoic on the bottles and stuff. But I was thinking of trying to do like a non-interactive movie, like a 3-hour thing of Queen Ariana and the Elven War and stuff. That would have been cool, but I sort of chickened out because I didn't think I could do the maps well enough. I didn't think they would be impressive enough to carry it. Now we're in the second half of the dungeon, which is more puzzle heavy. And I think a lot of people who played the game have said that I guess the combination of these two dungeons linked together as one experience was a big reason why they got really into the game. Just because, it was such a long experience. It's so it stays fun for a long time, I hope. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I've played this 100 times. But, it just it was an indication of the, kind of dungeons you were going to see. And I think that was good. And it's funny to think about, for a lot of this first arc, we didn't really know what the rest of the game was going to be. We had some ideas, but I believe I said last time that I was, considering just having it be an episodic series. And Arc 1 still has a lot of, I guess, evidence of that intention. And boy, it's been a while. How do I get around here? There's all these doors and stairs. Should find the ferry. Okay, we got some bats. Let's check out the new skills. Rough shot. Squall will insta-kill a bat, which is nice. And of course, rough shot's the first attack that you get that hits everyone. So that's handy, even if it's not a ton of damage. Yeah, let's find the ferry. This is getting a little long. Yeah, this is a pretty classic Mark dungeon in the sense that there's a central room that we'll find, And then there's like a series of switches that have to be pulled to where the hell am I going? Where's the main room? There's a series of switches that have to be pulled to get a bigger door open so you can proceed. Ah, for fuck's sake. Those guys can get a little grueling. I don't mind beating up some bats, but those dolls beat the shit out of you. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so yeah, you gotta open up the water flow. I think the premise was that like this is all holy water, so once it's high enough, it overpowers the seal that Andau had in the door. Because the seal is dark magic, because that's what Andau has. Sort of makes sense. Don't question it. Alright, let's get some goodies. And then I think we'll be done here. So next time we'll have some more fun in the church. Talk to you guys later. Peace.